Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Brian and this is Quest for Faith. And here on this channel, we break down the Catholic faith from a newcomer's perspective. So today, one of the things that I'm actually going to be covering is the family. And how the Catholic viewpoint of the family, to me, the more I think about it, is really the answer to most of the world's issues that we are having today. So we're going to dive into that. I'm going to be going through the Catholic Catechism a bunch, and hopefully you guys will enjoy this. But before we get started, please like, share, and subscribe. All right, let's get into it. So I don't think it's a secret that the family's been under attack for a long time. I think most of the issues that we have today is the destruction of the family unit in Western cultures. And it's no secret. And I mean, looking back, they started attacking the father a long time ago. You look at just look at TV, right? So in the 50s and 60s, all the dads on TV were smart, thoughtful, well put together men. I'm thinking of like Leave It to Beaver, the Andy Griffin Show, like that type of guy, right? Now you had your goofy characters in those shows too, but even like the original Dennis the Menace in the 50s, that show was the same way. The dad was smart, intelligent, and a source of knowledge and refuge for any kid on the show. So, but then we see this shift in really, I think, probably in the 70s, but for me, being born in 1980, you really see this kind of full force in the 80s and 90s, late 80s, 90s, when you have characters like Homer Simpson, with Married with Children with Al Bundy. I mean, the list kind of just goes on and on. In every movie, every TV show, the dad's a stupid idiot that you don't need to talk to. He's a moron. Just go to mom. Don't go to dad. Dad doesn't know anything. And that's kind of where it started, right? And now we're at this point where even the idea of motherhood is absolutely 100% under attack. And so now they've switched gears. They feel like they've destroyed the husband or the man enough in the family. So now they're going to go after the mom. And we're living in a generation right now where more and more women are prioritizing their careers for a variety of reasons, but I think mostly propaganda that they're supposed to have a career first over families. And but what does this do to society? How is these things happen? Like what's happening? And we're living in a time, supposedly. I wish I could find the statistic, but I saw it on a show that typically gives pretty good data. So I'll say that. But supposedly we're in a time where there's more women alive today at the age of 30 without kids than with kids for the first time in human history. And we're seeing this absolute decline in the worldwide birth rate. We're seeing that the death rate's higher than the birth rate, that we're not replacing ourselves, especially here in the United States. And families aren't a priority anymore. You know, kids are seen as a nuisance. Kids are seen as a burden. And I think it's a sad situation we're in. And because of all of these dynamics, all these other abuses start coming in. All these other things that are just making our society crumble are now have a foothold in society because the family is no longer a strong unit. And I was on Hands-On Apologetics with Gary Michuta 2 weeks ago, talking about this topic, but I'm going to kind of dive a little bit deeper, but I'm going to be covering a lot of the same points. But I wasn't sure if I was going to rehash this topic or not. And then this morning, I was flipping through YouTube and I saw this video, and this child molester was being interviewed, and he was talking about the kids he would target for molestation. And the reasons he would give are if he thought the father was not a threat, that was a good indication that the child could be molested. If it's a broken home, if it's a mother working full time and she's divorced, and it's like, oh no, don't worry, yeah, I can help watch the kids, and he would work his way in there. If he felt that the kid had no moral values, that the family wasn't a church-going family, that would be another positive thing. If he thought that the child would talk about it or tell anyone, right? I mean, I think that's a given, whether you have a strong family or not. That could be a bad thing. But, oh my gosh. So essentially, if there's a broken family, a weak head of the household where the father is not a threat and isn't there seen as a protector of the family, that's a dead giveaway for a child molester. Come on, man. Let's step up. That's awful. And I look at all the other issues we have going on today, right? Like abortion, promiscuity, this hookup culture we're seeing now, third wave feminism. All of these issues that are attacking Western culture would absolutely be destroyed if we would go back to having a strong family. All of it. Like the single parent household, when you break it down, I think it's almost at 40% or 45 or close to 50% overall right now. But if you break it down with different demographics, it's staggering in some communities, especially like the African American community. When you look at even the white communities now, we're creeping up to 50%. Like, these are unheard of numbers because there's not an emphasis on having a family and staying married. The divorce rates, all of these things, the selfishness that's in society that we see today, all of these things can be solved with a strong family. So let me kind of go through what the Catholic Church's point of view is on marriage and family and what it means. And I want to start off, and so I'm going to be going through a bunch of different quotes here in the Catholic Catechism, but I'm going to start off, it's around paragraph 1600 is when the sacrament of marriage is discussed in the Catholic Catechism. So if you want to check that out, you can. I'll put links down below on where you can see that for marriage, and then also the sections on family and society down below in the comments below, so you can read it yourself, because it's a good read. So if we start off in paragraph 1609, this is great. After the fall, marriage helps to overcome self-absorption, egoism, pursuit of one's own pleasure. What are we in today? What's society today? It's a pleasure palace. How can I be happy? I don't feel... It's all like narcissistic, selfish tendencies that are praised today. Anyway, sorry. And to open oneself to another, to mutual aid and self-giving. To be selfless. It's the point of marriage, is to help us be selfish, to get out of our own selves. How many people go into a marriage thinking about being selfless? I mean, me personally, I do have selfish tendencies. I do. And I think a lot of it has to do with just the environment I grew up in, my own personality. But this is something I know about myself, and so I've worked really hard to fight against it. But if I hadn't gotten married and I hadn't made this commitment, and I'm not breaking this commitment no matter what. I would be such a shallow, selfish person. Y'all don't even understand. Like, it would be bad. I could see myself being like other family members of myself where I'm very narcissistic. But I've worked really hard to try and be selfless with my wife and with my children. But the sacrament of marriage is what's given me the tools and the ability to get over myself, essentially. And so let's keep looking at this. So in paragraph 1601 in the Catholic Catechism, the matrimony covenant. Now it says covenant. It doesn't say contract. It doesn't say license. Covenant. And a covenant is something a lot stronger than a contract or license. It's a commitment to you and God and your spouse, by which a man and a woman establish between themselves a partnership of the whole life, is by nature ordered towards the good of the spouses and the procreation and education of the offspring. Let me read that last part again. Is by nature ordered to the good of the spouses. What did I read earlier about getting out of one's own way with marriage? And the procreation and education of the offspring. Come on, what was one of the first things God told man to do? Be fruitful and multiply, right? Genesis 1, verse 28. And if we look deeper in there, it goes on in 1605 in the Catholic Catechism, quote in Genesis. And I love this. This is great. It is not good that a man should be alone. The woman, flesh of his flesh, is equal. His nearest of all things is given to him by God as a helpmate. So we have, and before I finish this paragraph here at 1605, we're having this battle of the sexes right now, where I don't need a man type mentality with this third wave feminism. Men are awful. Not saying that we're great. We have our faults, but so do y'all. But listen to how the Catholic Church views wives. Listen to this. Let me go back a little bit. The woman, flesh of his flesh, is equal, as his nearest in all things, is given to him by God as a helpmate. Thus, she thus represents God, from whom comes our help. The wife represents God. Why do they say that? Well, let's think about it, right? So in the beginning, Adam was created. God tells him, hey, go name all the animals. Adam looks depressed. God's like, man, this ain't working. Okay, I'm going to put you in a deep sleep. I'm going to create something from your rib. Pulls his rib out, creates woman. We have Eve. And she's to be his helper. God gave us each other and gave us specific roles. And that when we fall into these roles, we're happier. Now, am I saying that it's going to be a dream walk and everything's going to be great? Not at all. Marriage is difficult. You're making a commitment to live with somebody for your entire life, which means you have to be selfless, which means you have to get out of your own way, which means you can't be self-absorbed and you have to think of someone else. You have to. Like there's no other way to have a successful marriage unless you can do that. But this idea that my wife represents God, because that's where all my help comes from. And I got to tell you, I couldn't imagine life without her. I couldn't. Now, there are days that we fight and we get on each other's nerves. And actually, I was joking with her yesterday that one of my particular talents is annoying her. So, I'm not sitting here acting like everything's all roses here in the Topham household, but it's definitely I do see this, and it just speaks truth. But so if that's kind of, we have the man as the head of the household, and we have the wife here as a helpmate, equal together, but they have their separate roles. And if you're functioning in those roles, life's really good. But let's talk about, how does the family interact with society? So one of the things that I love there in the Catholic Catechism 1601 is this procreation and education of the offspring. So how does the family interact with society? So we're going to skip to Catholic Catechism starting in paragraph 2207. And it says, the family is the original cell of social life. It is the natural society in which husbands and wives are called to give themselves in love in the gift of life. Authority, stability, and life of the relationship within the family constitutes the foundation for freedom, security, fraternity within society. Let me read that again, the second part. Authority, stability, life of relationships within the family constitute the foundations for freedom, security, fraternity within society. What do we feel right now as society? We have this revolution or pushback on authority. Nothing seems stable right now. We're having freedoms taken away. We don't feel secure. We don't feel a camaraderie or fraternity with our fellow human beings here on earth. Everything is falling apart. And a society that values marriage and family can have these things. I'm not saying they're always going to have these things, but has this tendency to be more stable, to have more security, to understand authority structures and be able to work within a system and have fraternity with each other. That's the consequence, y'all, of having a family life. In paragraph 2209, the family must be helped and defended by appropriate social measures. So what does this mean, right? We should be sticking up and praising those people that are having 5, 6, 7 kids. That's awesome. We should be talking to our children, teaching them, because we are the first teachers of our children. And we'll get into that here in just a second. But this should be something that we should be defending. We shouldn't be telling our kids, figure out what you want to do first. Don't get married until at least 25. Why wait? What if you find someone that's great, but you've been told your entire life that getting married before 25 is not an okay thing, so you pass up on this woman of your dreams or man of your dreams, and you go on with life and you end up maybe not marrying them, maybe single at 30, 35, and then you're wondering what the heck is going on. Am I really fulfilled by this job that I've been fighting for? Because I'll tell you, at 41, my job doesn't fulfill me at all. It's not. I make pretty good money. I think the stuff I do helps people for the most part, indirectly. But it's not a fulfillment. And all I've found at 41 is the more money I make, the more money I need. It's not a source of fulfillment. But we're not defending families and telling people, hey, get married early. We should be protecting the institute of marriage and defending it as much as we can. And it goes on in the next paragraph, 2210. The importance of the family for the life and well-being of society entails a particular responsibility for society to support and strengthen marriage and the family, which is, I just think is spot on. So let's kind of dive down just a little bit further, and we're going to talk about the duty of the parents. This is awesome. This is kind of the point I want to get to. So obviously, if I'm saying parents, it means you have kids, and that kids are a gift from God. Kids are not a burden. The Lord's blessed me with 2, but we'd love to have more kids because kids are a blessing. I love babies. They're awesome. Anyways, but parents, in the Catholic Catechism 2221, what is that word? Fiduti? I don't even know. It's the Catholic Catechism. Sometimes they throw in these words that my brain can't process at 7:20 in the morning. That marriage cannot be reduced to solely the procreation of children, but must extend to their moral education and their spiritual formation. The role of the parents in education is of such importance that it is almost impossible to provide an adequate substitute. The right and the duty of the parents to educate their children is paramount and inalienable. That's the Catholic Church's teachings. You are the kids' teachers. And what are we seeing today? And again, this goes back to how our society is being built today versus how it used to be. The kids were mainly educated at home. Like, you might go to a school, but you know why we had summer breaks back in the day? It was so the kids could work and bring in the harvest with their dads. That was why we had summer break from school. We as parents have such a great responsibility to educate our kids. And I think we've negated that, right? I mean, how many times have you see on Catholic Twitter where somebody goes, hey, I went to religious ed in Catholic schools and Catholic high school for 4 years and Catholic elementary school, and they spout some crazy stupid thing off that they don't believe in, or that they think is the church is wrong on, or is just obviously a dumb point of view. I'm not going to give any specifics because I could probably easily throw one out there, but I'm not. But I think we see that is because we've relied on institutions to educate our kids over the last 50, 60 years, maybe 70 years, versus parents educating their kids. Now, I think that's shifting, and I think that's why homeschooling is so prevalent today, and that it's growing. I mean, we homeschool our kids, and it's great. And let me know. I'm trying to get my wife to come on my channel. But I'd love to do, if you would like to hear me talk more about how we homeschool and how we do put our faith into how we do homeschooling. Comment down below if you want to see that. Maybe if enough of y'all say, I'd love to hear from her on that, 'cause she's the one that runs the homeschooling. Maybe I can talk her into coming on, but she's so much more private than I am. So I don't know. But this is an important thing, like to be the education, to educate our children. And then it stems back to the whole thing with society. And so I'm going to kind of leave it. Well, I'm going to read one more thing, and this is paragraph 2225 from the Catholic Catechism. Through the grace of the sacrament of marriage, parents receive the responsibility and privilege of evangelicalizing their children at an early age. Do you know it says that in the Catholic Catechism? That we're supposed to do that with our kids? To be talking about the sacraments, to be talking about our faith, to be talking about the tenets of Christianity and Catholicism. to where kids at an early age have a firm understanding of why they go to mass, what's the Holy Trinity, all of that stuff. Not just that you send them for an hour a day to religious ed, so they can go through and get their first communion and go through confirmation and all that fun stuff. It should be intertwined in your daily conversations at home. And I love this part, and I'm going to leave it at this. Paragraph 2229 says the right to choose a school for them is the parents' responsibility. And it says that we should be able to choose a school that fits our morals. And unfortunately, I think if you're in public school, and don't completely hate me on this, but it's a losing battle today. And I'll see a lot of comments about, we can't just completely pull out because then they win. Yeah, but if you pull out, they lose funding. Are they winning then if all of their funding's gone because they are such a crappy institution? I don't know. So you could see going through how the Catholic Church sees a family that it's the answer to a lot of the issues we are having in today's society. The issues of authority, the issues of sexual abuse in our society, the issues of depression, the just all of these horrors that we're seeing in our society today, that some are just being praised. Like, it's just awful. But if we went back and started embracing this idea of having big families, and that families are more important than anything else, more important than ourselves, and children aren't a burden, and we just follow the teachings of the Catholic Church on what if marriage and family is, we'd be a lot better off today than what we are. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Yeah, I firmly believe this. I think this is absolutely true. But anyways, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to y'all later.